All right, guys, welcome back to the last little bit of chapter 22 in the Vietnam War. I'm gonna try to go as fast as I can. My battery's dying, so I'm gonna try to get through this as quick as I can. If I go back really quick though, remember section 1 was background. Make sure you know French Indochina, what it was. Make sure you know the Geneva Accords broke up Laos and Cambodia and Vietnam from French Indochina. Make sure you know the 17th parallel. Make sure you know the Viet Cong and the NLF. Okay. Make sure you know what Kennedy did. He sent 15,000 troops, or 15,000 advisors, not troops. Make sure you know Operation Rolling Thunder under Lyndon B. Johnson. And then when we talk about American goals, we got deep into this in the last video, part 2, why these weren't really good goals or weren't very concrete. We talked about problems with the Vietnam War, a lot of things that were kind of explained in the last section. And then anti-war activism because of the draft, because of TV and the media, because of the Tet Offensive, and because LBJ decides not to run for re-election in the kind of culminating point of the Kent State Massacre, which we covered last section. So let's get to Richard Nixon. We'll talk about Richard Nixon again. When we get to chapter 24, we'll talk about his resignation as President of the United States. So 1968, Richard Nixon wins the presidency, largely due to what he calls the silent majority. Now this I can't write it up there, so make sure you know for the silent majority, this was the idea that most people aren't out protesting. Most people love their country. Most people are upset about the fact that the loudest of Americans are actually a minority of people, right? Like when you go on Twitter and Facebook and social media, Snapchat or whatever, it seems like the most obnoxious people, loudest people are generally not, most Americans aren't like that. Most Americans are quiet. Most Americans let stuff kind of die down. Like if you've ever had a Facebook post or a Snapchat or a tweet or whatever, and you post it and it seems like you're just hearing from people who want to argue with you and don't like you or disagreeing with you. And they do that on that platform loudly, obnoxiously, right? And there's a whole bunch of people, way more people. Maybe it's like 1 or 2, 3 people are doing that online. And then 10, 12 dozen people would hit you up on the side and be like, hey man, I agree with you. That's what we call the silent majority. People who aren't out there being obnoxious and being loud, and that's what he felt he could win the presidency from. Now, he was a Republican. Back then, Republicans mainly won northern states, all the way back from the Civil War, and it's not till the 1968 election that Nixon's able to turn that southern vote back to his way. A lot of southern Democrats voted for Nixon because he's just a little bit more, I guess, I don't know, old school, if you will. And also the fact that Democrats split the vote because of George Wallace. George Wallace was I'll write his name up here. This would be an old TNT classic movie on him, like a made-for-TV movie on him. He was a guy he was a racist. He was a guy who wanted to keep segregation. He's from Alabama. Again, a lot of people just they forget this. The Democrats basically ran the South up until from like 1865, and before that until 1968. Okay, and we talked about this with Prohibition. I just gotta turn it on again. Sorry, battery's dying, so that's why it's doing this. What was it getting at? Are you kidding me? Okay. And we talked about the Klan, the KKK controlling the Democrat Party for a long time, and now that's how we got Prohibition. It's part of the reason why we got Prohibition and the rest of it. All right, so one of the things that a lot of people voted for Nixon on is he was going to get us out of the war, but we're going to do it with honor. Okay, he called this peace and honor. That was his program. He's going to end the Vietnam War by using Vietnamisation. It's a word you'll need to know, Vietnamisation. Okay, this is where United States forces withdraw. They're going to withdraw from Vietnam. I should capitalize that. And the South Vietnamese troops are going to assume combat duties. Okay. Now, if anybody learns in recent history, we did this under Barack Obama. We tried to withdraw from Iraq, right? And who came to power? Something way worse than the Taliban, something way worse than Al-Qaeda, something way worse than Saddam Hussein. That was ISIS. When we left, that's what happens. And, we've talked about this in other wars. We've talked ever since the Spanish-American War. Wherever we won at, we still have bases at. We're talking about World War II, we still have a base in Japan, Germany, and the rest. Okay, we still have a base in Cuba after the Spanish-American War. Okay, in Guam after the Spanish-American War. That's 100 years ago. Okay, that takes a very long time, like to nation build or like that takes a long time. We didn't do that with Vietnam. We about did it. We about withdrew all of our troops from Iraq and Afghanistan, and after ISIS came about, we basically had to come back in because they were conquering, basically all of the Middle East. So, all right, now the Paris Peace Accord. So we signed a treaty with Vietnamese. We did the same thing. Trump tried to do this with the Taliban in Afghanistan in January. A lot of people don't remember this. He tried to do this. He signed a peace accord with them, and he said we were going to leave out Afghanistan and let you take it over. Within 48 hours, the Taliban had attacked, killed American troops. So just goes to show you things. Sometimes these people you can't. There's some people you can't negotiate with. All right. So the Paris Peace Accords were this. Okay. We get POWs returned, but I can't write up there. But we get our prisoners of war returned. Okay, we're going to withdraw our troops and come home, and South Vietnam has to recognize North Vietnam. Okay. Okay, you can see the picture there. I'm going home. Yeah. And the consequences of that is what everybody feared. I know it kind of gets cut off here. Okay. If we go back to the policy of containment, Eisenhower said this, that if you contain communism to its borders where it's at right now, it's going to die. Communism will always fail. If you look at Venezuela, socialist, communist, whatever you want to call it, if you look at Cuba, those places are failing. Okay, the Soviet Union failed. Okay, and the idea is to keep it where it's currently at. North Korea is a dumpster fire of a place. Cuba is a hard place to live. And what we see is, when we leave Vietnam, okay, eventually the Soviets are going to back the invasion of Vietnam completely by the Chinese, and then the Viet Cong, it's not South Vietnam, okay? And communism eventually then spread to Laos and Cambodia. So not only do we lose Vietnam, now we lose Laos and Cambodia. We're going to get deeper and talk about normalizing relations with China under Nixon. Probably something we shouldn't have done. Looking at it now, I definitely shouldn't have done with all this stuff. With all this stuff going on with coronavirus, it's crazy that we've depended on China for so long, and they are bad actors. Their government are bad people, and it's led to now 20,000 people dead around the world. So a lot of unintended consequences of this. This will wrap up this last section of chapter 22. If something doesn't come through, I know the first two, but definitely part one, you couldn't read a lot of the writing. If that's the case, just comment me and we'll or message me on Google Class when we get it. So appreciate you watching, guys.